Hi guys, Dr. McDowell here, and today we're going to talk about poetry. Yay! So I've got a little prezi to show you. Turn off my video camera. Hope you're all doing well, by the way. I do miss y'all. Okay, so poetry. It's awesome. Let's jump right in, shall we? Okay, prezi being weird. Hang on. Hit pause. Okay, let's try this again. Poetry, it's awesome. So let's jump in. So some refreshers with poetry. Figurative language works really well with poetry. We have similes where we compare things using like or as, metaphors, comparing things without using like or as, alliteration, you're repeating the first sound in a letter, hyperbole is an exaggeration, onomatopoeia, words that sound like the sound that they make, like pop, boom, bang. Assonance, which is like alliteration, but instead of repeating the first sound, you're repeating the first vowel sound. And there's more. Other things to remember. Some poems follow rules, some poems do not. So, I just want to show you a few examples of poetry you can play with your multi-genre research project. Of course, there are more poems in the world that I'm going to show you, but this is just a way to get you started. So first I want to talk about a found poem. A found poem, I like to call it the gateway poem. It's a good way to get students thinking about poetry, interacting with poetry. It kind of takes the fear away from poetry. So with a found poem, you read a book and you copy down one line from each page that stands out to you, and you use a new line for each page. That's for picture books. If you're gonna, well, yeah, let's stop there. It's for picture books. So we're gonna read Owl Moon. Normally I read this out loud to you in class, but we're not in class, and I left the book in my office, so I found a video of it on YouTube. I'm not gonna play it now inside this video, but I am gonna add the video to Canvas so you can play it at your leisure. But basically, so you read the book. Let me see if I can just zoom in. As you read through the book, you look for lines that really stand out to you. This is one of the reasons we're not going to do it off this video because it's hard to read. But you find a phrase or a line that, just speaks to you for some reason, and then you write it down. And you go to the next line, and on the next page, do the same thing. And what that will bring you is something that looks like this. I don't know if you can read that, actually, because it just didn't load very well. But these are lines that I pulled from the book, and you read them all together, and you're like, wow, voila, you just found a poem. Hence the name. It's kind of cheesy, but for some students, that's what they need to get started in poetry, because to some students, it just seems like the most scary thing in the world. So we want to make poetry accessible to everybody. This is a very valid form of poetry writing. One question that arises is, does this count as plagiarism? And I would say no if you do two things. You say that, well, you name the author as long with you. So like if I submitted this, it's a found poem. I would say this poem was written by me and Jane Yolen. Jane Yolen is the author of Owl Moon. So you list both their names, okay? Because yes, I'm using Jane Yolen's words, but I am the one that chose which lines I wanted to use. And you are the one who is choosing which lines you want to use. So therefore you are a co-author of this poem. So make sure if you use this found poem, make sure you cite the author of the original work. Some books lend themselves to found poetry better than others. Jane Yolen happens to write in a very figurative language, strong style of writing. And so her works lend themselves to found poems very well. Other books aren't going to work as well. They're not going to sound poetic, but that's okay. You can always rearrange the lines. This is a great gateway into revision, teaching students how to revise poems to make them sound better. It's also a great way to teach note-taking. You take a textbook, for example, and maybe out of each section of the text is where you want to pull a line, and students are then learning to look for one line of importance, and they write that down, and then they have a list of notes. It might sound more like a free verse poem at that point, but it still works. So lots of use for a found poem. Next, we have a color poem, kind of like the just the name of it. You pick a color and you define it through metaphors. So you would have to make this tie into your topic though. Here's an example I found online. But orange, orange is instinct. Orange is like the warmth of fire. Orange is like motivation before a game. Orange is like freedom to do anything. So this student did a combination of similes and metaphors, and that's fine. I also want to show you this is a really cool trick to do in class is give your students paint chip card. You know, like when you go to the paint store and you get all the little sample cards of paint. And what a fun way to write out your color poem. So that's just something, it's a little tool you can steal and use in your own classroom someday. Don't go to the paint stores now because, you know, we're supposed to be in quarantine. So, you know, I don't think paint chips are essential right now. We've got free verse poems. Free verse poems are literally no rules, literally none. So it's whatever you want. So here's an example of my favorite poem of all time. This is Just to Say by William Carlos Williams. And he writes, I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. And I just love this poem because it's just so simple, but yet it's just, I don't know, it just really strikes me. I can envision the plums, I can envision the angry spouse. It's like, man, that was my plum I was going to eat for breakfast. I don't know, it's just my favorite poem ever. Then we have fixed verse poetry, and all those poetries have rules. So some examples are limericks, cinquains, haikus, sonnets, sestinas, acrostics, and so many more. And you can do a little bit of research, but I can show you some poems. Let me show you a limerick. Limericks. Oh, yay, pop-up bids. Okay, limerick is a humorous poem consisting of 5 lines. The first, second, and fifth lines must have 7 to 10 syllables with rhyming and having the same verbal rhythm. And then the third and fourth line should only have 5 to 7 syllables, and they too must rhyme with each other. So they got that A, B, B, A rhyme scheme, if you remember learning rhyme schemes in high school. So here's an example written by Edward Lear, who was a famous British poet. There was an old man with a beard who said, it is just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, 4 larks and a wren have all built their nests in my beard. So limericks are supposed to be funny, okay? They're not, you know, usually that serious. Here's one written from an English class. So anyway, you can play with limericks. They're fun. There was a young lady of Lynn who was so uncommonly thin that when she essayed to drink lemonade, she slipped through the straw and fell in. Okay, so anyway, that's an option. Cinquain, I always get tongue-tied. Cinquains. There are short, unrhymed poems consisting of 22 syllables, distributed as 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, and 5 lines. And they follow this format. Line 1 is a noun, and remember, it's supposed to be 2 syllables. Line 2 is a description of the noun in 4 syllables. Line 3 is some kind of action in 6 syllables. Line 4 is a feeling or effect in 8 syllables. And then line 5 is a synonym of the initial noun. So here's some examples. Angels, kind beyond words. They protect and forgive and make feelings of blissfulness. Cherubim. Okay, so they didn't really follow the syllable scheme, but that's okay. Turquoise thoughts, hammered, silver bracelet, desert sky, turquoise stone, city bound, but feels sagebrush in her soul. Anyway, that's another fun one. And it's very accessible for students because you're literally telling them what kinds of things to write. This site is shadowpoetry.com, and look at all these different poetry. So if you're feeling bored, which I know I'm starting to get a little stir crazy, you can explore some other types of poems. Let's talk about haikus next. I lost a page. Haikus, let me just do it quick. Haiku. haiku, haiku, haiku. Nifty. Okay, haikus follow that 5-7-5 rule. There are 3 lines. First line has 5 syllables. Second line has 7 syllables. Third line has 5 syllables. So some of these examples aren't very good. I had a page all lined up and ready to use. Here we go. And I somehow closed it out in accident. So 3 lines, 5-7-5 syllables. Autumn moonlight, a worm digs silently into the chestnut. Okay, very easy to write, very accessible to students because they're so short. Students, at least in my experience, students have always really enjoyed haiku. Some features of haiku, they always contain 3 lines. They have 5 moras or syllables in the first line, 7, as we said before, 17 syllables in total. Okay, ads need to go away. Haikus don't normally rhyme. They usually have a seasonal reference or about our nature or natural phenomena. However, you can play with haiku. I have a friend back home in Michigan. He doesn't do this anymore, but he used to write movie reviews in haiku. He had a whole website for it. So some of them are a little more appropriate than others, but here's one he wrote about Kung Fu Panda 2 back in 2011. Great animation, heart laughs helped this franchise earn a black belt in fun. Right? Who knew you could do a movie review in 17 syllables, but there you go. So you can have fun with it. The next poem I want to show you is the Where I'm From poem. This is a bit of a deeper poem, but when I show you the things you can do with it, you will probably be amazed. This poem was written by George Ella Lyon, and she wrote this. I don't remember when she wrote this poem, but it had a big surge in schools in like the late 90s. I've seen a lot of lesson plans use this poem. So she writes this. It's an autobiographical poem that she writes about herself, and she writes, "I am from clothespins, from Clorox and carbon tetrachloride. I am from the dirt under the back porch, black, glistening, it tasted like beets. I am from the forsythia bush, the Dutch elm whose long gone limbs I remember as if they were my own. I'm from fudge and eyeglasses, from Imogene and Alifair. I'm from the know-it-alls and the Passadons, from perk up and pipe down. I am from He restoreth my soul, with a cotton ball lamb in 10 verses I can say myself. I'm from Artemis and Billy's branch, fried corn and strong coffee, from the finger my grandfather lost to the auger, the eye my father shut to keep his sight. Under my bed was a dress box, spilling old pictures, a sift of lost faces to drift beneath my dreams. I am from those moments, snapped before I budded, leaf fall from the family tree." So in this poem, she really goes into her childhood, where she's from. She remembers, yikes, my computer is so touchy today. Well, anyway, she talks about where she comes from. She talks about, make sure I get the right one. She talks about clothespins and Clorox and carbon tetrachloride. So she's got memories of laundry, dirt under the porch where she was probably playing. If you're a kid, you probably ate dirt at some point in your life, and it has that earthy taste to it, like beets would. She talked about trees that are at her home. She remembers eating fudge and eyeglasses from Imogene and Alifair. Those are probably ancestors. The know-it-alls and the Passadons and perk up pipe down. There's the things that family have probably said to her. She's got a Bible verse that she remembers, going to church, making cotton ball lamb. More family memories, like her grandfather losing their finger. Her dad had to lose an eye, he had to shut one eye to keep his sight, so they probably lost vision in one eye. And where they can find these memories. So let me show you what you can do with that. There is a template that it's on Canvas now. Right here, Where I'm From poem template. You can load that if you'd like to. But you it's kind of like a Mad Lib almost, but take it seriously, and you fill in the blanks. So You could write this about yourself if you wanted to do an autobiographical poem. I am from blank, 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 blank. But you could also do this for a famous person. I know a lot of you are writing about Rosa Parks, so you could fill this in autobiographically. I am from, bus seats from, I don't know, I can't do this on the fly without doing some research first, but you can fill in the blanks. Um, and these poems usually turn out really powerful. I'm just gonna say right there, you can convey a lot of information. You can also have fun with this and use some personification. So if we are talking about photosynthesis, okay, maybe we're talking about how plants make their nutrition. I am from sunbeams, from rain and dirt, and I don't know. You have to play with it. I used to have one that I wrote about tornadoes, and it talked about the different types of tornadoes, and it was really cool. And it was on its flash drive, and the flash drive died. So, word to the wise: if you save all your stuff in a flash drive, back it up somewhere. I lost my whole first year of grad school because that flash drive died. It's great. Anyway, I'm rambling. You can use this template. It's another really good way to introduce students to poetry if you give them a template. Because if I had just shown you this and said, okay, rewrite it, you'd be like, what? I can't write that. Well, maybe some of you could. I mean, I know all of you could, but some of you would not feel confident that you could. But if you give your students a template, a starting point, and they're like, oh, I can totally do this. And so you're giving students the tools they need to be successful. Okay, so the last poem I want to talk to you about are concrete poems. Concrete poems are really fun. They take the shape of whatever it is that you are writing about. So, like, here's one candle. Candle burning bright, cutting the darkness of the night. Short and sweet, it's in the shape of a candle. And there's probably another line there that I didn't read. So, those are fun. And then, oh, I should talk about acrostics too. You've probably written a million acrostics where you write like the word down. This is doing real fast. No, hit the wrong button. Story of my life. Okay, so you take a word, fill it out. Down the page like this, and then you write descriptors about it. So dogs, digging. Keep the touchpad on my laptop. Digging in the dirt. Oily, waterproof coats. Gargantuan ones. There we go. That's an acrostic. So very easy, very another accessible way to get poetry started with your students. So, okay. So sorry, I'm on my porch swing, so I'm probably moving a little bit. These are some poetry options. You can use some of them. You can use none of them. You do have to write 4 poems. So if you're like, ooh, I don't know where to start with poetry, I'd say start with some of the ones I showed you. If you got, if you have some other ideas for poetry, obviously go for it. And as always, let me know if you have any questions or concerns. And I will talk to you hopefully soon. Bye bye.